peaceful and beautiful and physical and angry all at the same time.
Were you idiot, your mind would cave in and your heart would explode within your chest.
This is going to be a shame.
Here we go!
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back inside a brand new edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. Matt Robinson with you in the TCA studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. We're talking today to our buddy Graeme Nichols, who's been kind enough to circle back. We've done this for, 4 or 5 years now, the annual Ottawa Senators season preview show. What's happening, man?
Not too much, Matt. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm glad you made a little time to come back. Things are good here. I'll be honest with you, man. It's felt like a bit of a dull off season for the Sens, but maybe there wasn't a whole lot there in terms of what they needed to do. Maybe this is one of those teams that's still banking on a little internal growth. We'll get into it, but let's have a pint, man.
Exclusive. That was not exclusive to Ottawa, though.
It was not.
The league in general. It was a horrendous offseason, especially after it was like trumpeted as being one that could have a ton of movement, a ton of action.
This is it. Like, everybody's got money. There's going to be so much. And then it was like, everybody's got money, so they're not forced into doing anything. So it was, oh boy.
Nice. That was all right.
Yeah. That's got to be a Guinness.
It was. You knew right away.
Yeah.
You knew right away. That was all right, though.
That's it's a classic sound for sure. Over here, I'm riding with something from the Broken Stick Brewing Company. Just did a delivery from them a few weeks ago, so I'm kind of working through some of that. But this is the Hazy Bear New England Pale Ale, 5.5%. I've never tried this one before, so that's what we're going to ride with here. Our buddy CJ speaks highly of this brewery. I think he tends to golf there quite a bit, and then maybe visits the brewery quite a bit. They do that also.
He knows his beer.
He
CJ,
does know his.
He doesn't mess around. He knows his beer.
He knows what's up.
So before we get into it, I heard you had Wally on the podcast last week.
I did, yeah, on
How'd that go?
Friday afternoon. Well, he booed you a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Everybody always does.
When I was teeing up that you were coming back, yeah, he was a little hard on you. But no, interesting conversation, man. That's the first time Wally and I have ever met, so he was willing. He branched out a little bit. He said before he came in, he's really only like a lager or a pale ale guy. And I talked him into a dark lager. So he took a minor step forward, right? A little bit of
which one?
That was the evening edition from Beyond the Pale.
Okay, right on.
Nice beer, yeah. So he was willing to
say like a dark Czech fire lager or something.
Yeah.
That's what I was waiting for.
It was a light dark lager. Like that's what it was, like 3.8% or something like that. So, but
there you go.
Credit to him. He was willing to try something, live the gimmick a little bit when you come in here, right? So
did he let his hair down? He was all right.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. As I was sort of talking about his appearance here on our Monday morning show, I said when a guy is frequently using the phrases, I'm not sure if I should say this, or I've never told this story before, you're having a good episode, man. The guy's opening up. So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
You've been working with him now for quite a while on the Coming in Hot podcast, and Jason York. What's that experience been like for you to have a regular seat there?
It's certainly interesting. Like never anticipate I would be there, first of all. Just by luck of the draw, like I wound up being seated beside Brent in the press box last season. Like obviously we had known each other before, like followed each other on social media and stuff, but like never really had extended opportunities to spend a lot of time with him and just engage and talk hockey and share some laughs and everything else. And I think like we built a friendship up over the early part of the season. And then when the opportunity presented itself, he asked me to come on the show, and I jumped on, and I obviously went well enough for him to ask me to come back. And then I had a second show. He's like, if you're ever free, like he knew my availability as a firefighter, City of Ottawa firefighter. So he said, if there's opportunities that you just want to come on, like we're happy to have you all the time. And I'm like, well, just let me know. Like I'd totally be down. So that's kind of how it happened. And it's been great. Yeah, it's still surreal to me because I had been blogging, I had a podcast, done several things before, but I'd never had a platform afforded to me like Wally afforded to me. So
sure.
To be able to go out in public, like I took my kids to like a Carp Creamery, and like the guy behind the counter goes, "Hey Graeme, love the show." I'm like, "Oh, this is weird." And then same thing, and then took like my daughter to a water park like school event, and then one of the parents came up to me and they're like, "Hey, I can't believe that you're here. You're on my favorite podcast." I'm like, I'm not Jason York, right? And it's just kind of that whole aspect of it's a little bit surreal, where you
local celebrity, man,
could potentially get recognized in public. So that's something not only that I have to get used to, I have to be cognizant of.
Sure. Now that you're a bit of a big deal, it's
no, I wouldn't even say that. It's just like you got to respect that side of it, and then it's totally different. It's not something I'm really accustomed to, so that part's taking a little adjusting, but I'm loving it, having a great time. Yorkie's fantastic as always, and Wally just does so much research and preparation and work for the show that it makes it really easy. And I almost feel guilty showing up some days because it's just like you see what he does to keep that show moving, and it's like, yep, I'm not putting in that work, and it's still going all right. So.
Well, he spoke highly of you when he was here, and he did say he doesn't remember there being a formal conversation of making you the regular third. It just, he kept sending you the link and the showtime, and you kept showing up. He's like, I guess he's our guy now. He's a part of this, and it's worked out well.
I'm like a stray pet that just kind of kept coming up to the back door, and he lets in the house from time to time. Yeah. It's been fun though, man. It's just such an easy time. It's similar like coming on the show. It's like every time I talk to you or talk to Wally and Yorkie, it's just like the hour flies by. Like it happens so quickly, and it's just, I don't know. I just love talking sports. I love talking hockey. I love talking the Senators and stuff. So everything just kind of free flows, and it's just the laughs and everything that goes along with it. It's been a lot of fun.
Last year was, if I'm not mistaken, your first full year of being fully accredited between their coming in hot and obviously your work with the Hockey News, heading into your second full year. What's that? We'll dive into the Sens here specifically in a few minutes, but I always like to catch up and see how it's been treating you and what the experience has been like as you get ready for your second full year, kind of accredited and on the beat.
Yeah, and it's surreal, and I hope that feeling never really goes away. It's a privilege. It's a real privilege to have the opportunity and access to go into those rooms, and it's a challenge I laid out for myself. Like, you know, I've been doing, like, as I mentioned earlier, like I was blogging for several years leading up to this, and then like Steve Warren had the conversation with me last year. He's like, "Hey, I would love to bring you in under the Hockey News umbrella," and I'm like, "Well, I'd love to do it. Don't even really care about the money or anything else like that. It's just being a fully accredited journalist would be my goal, because it's something I've never done before, and I think I'd like to try, because it's totally different than anything I had done previously." So it's all kind of worked out, you know, like Ian Mendez and Sylvain Saint Laurent took over the media department there, and it's been a really, really cool experience. And it's like just the subtleties, man. Like I took my kid, I had Jack, my son, who's 3 years old, took him to practice on Saturday just because I didn't have a sitter or anything like that. And my wife was up at the cottage, and I had an opportunity to take him to the practice. And even just having like Tyler Clevin, who was skating beforehand, just saw me and him, and he just, "Hey, little buddy," you know, like stuff like that. And then Brady Tkachuk, same thing when we got back to the CTC for player availabilities and everything else. It's just like those like moments where people not only recognize you, but recognize your family and take a little bit of time out of their day just to see how you're doing and stuff. It's just like that. It's just, there is that little bit of like, this is totally surreal. I can't, you can't put a price tag on that. It's just, it's super neat, and it's a luxury I've been afforded, and I don't want to take it for granted at all. So it's been a lot of fun, and I love producing the content and everything else that goes with it. And it's opened up some avenues, and still having fun.
That's great, man. And it's been cool to watch, you know, the experience, and obviously the work you're able to do now that you have a little more access. Like your work at Roman a Day and the stuff, the Sixth Sens you've been doing for a while was always great, but now you've got a little more access to the players and to management and whatever else is going on. It gives the work even that much more depth. It's been great to watch, man.
Oh, it's yeah. And yeah, it's just the simple stuff too. It's like, there's questions, and like, you know, like Brady Tkachuk, like last year, for example, like I had always wanted to hear a story on how like Brady Tkachuk ultimately decided to sign with Ottawa. Because, you know, like he could have taken a bridge deal like his brother. Mm-hmm. You had all the distractions and everything else. Like the organization was a zoo. I think most people will recognize and acknowledge that leading up to the Mike Landauer purchase. So you had an opportunity for a player to essentially walk himself to unrestricted free agency, and he elected not to. And it's like, well, I know it's like time had passed since he actually ultimately made that decision, but I kind of wanted to like flesh it out and get into that a little bit. Like why here? And like, so there's like articles that are interesting to me. I don't know if they're interesting to most people, but like, you know, it's just like the opportunity to go in and kind of like find stories that aren't necessarily the things that are like happening now, or it's like, I don't want to be that person who just reports, okay, like I'm at the rink, A, B, and C, and D are happening. I kind of want
Here's
to go
today's lines and pairings.
Not that there's anything wrong with like that kind of like Associated
stuff
Press
people want to see it
reporting,
too,
but
yeah,
I think there's opportunities, like there's avenues for like more creative writing, more creative insight, and kind of like deeper dives into the team. And I think, you have this opportunity, you should be exploring those as often as you possibly can, because there's different like human interest stories that are right there at your fingertips. You just have to go work for them and try and sell those stories. So that part's been a lot of fun. And
but we just saw episode 1 there of Faceoff, which was heavy on the Brady Well, I said this to Rob the other day. I said, it irritates me that they showed me that he's a good guy. Like, I just like seeing him in the jersey and he's an asshole and he's running around hitting my favorite players and whatever else. But then you're like, oh, look, he's good with his kids. Oh, look, he's good with the fans. Oh,
yeah.
I don't like that. I preferred to believe he sucked, right? Like,
I don't want to think of this person as a human being.
No, I don't at all. But that these series do that a little bit. Rob said the same thing last year when they did the Willie episode. That you're like, all right, he's just kind of a chill guy, and it is what it is, right? So, look, I had never heard anybody say a bad word about Brady, but just as a pure hockey fan, you'd like to see that guy as the villain, right, as part of the rival. And so, for me as a guy who still watches some pro wrestling, and they put out these documentaries, and you're like, oh, you're pulling the curtain back too much. Like, let me just believe that guy's a bad guy, right? Like, it's... I don't know. The episode was well done. It was well put together, but it was cool to watch him be out skating with his kid and stuff like that. It was...
Yeah. I think it's hard, though, right? Like, because I'm just speaking strictly from a Senators perspective. I thought there was going to be a ton more content about, like, the playoff push, Brady dealing with an injury down the stretch, and, like, kind of, like, waging that, like, internal kind of struggle where it's, like, he's not healthy, but he needs to be healthy for the postseason if they get there. And, like, that kind of...
Rob, that was the first thing that didn't stand out to me, and maybe that's because I don't look at the team quite the same way as you. But that was the exact same thing Rob said. Was how do you not mention the injury more, and how,
especially because it happened at Four Nations, which was like a principal focus of the episode, right?
Yeah.
So like,
and they do talk more about the playoffs in episode 4 when it sort of dovetails with the Leaf episode, but still almost no mention of. And there was nobody who could have watched that series and said Brady's at his best. Brady's 100% right now. Like, it's so it was odd that wasn't mentioned more.
But it's tough because I think there are so many different layers to Brady. You mentioned like the family life. Obviously, the Tkachuk family history is huge, and then his brother's success. Like, there are different, totally different things going on within that episode. But at the same time, I think like the big part of the draw and the appeal of Brady is that he's playing for an organization that's been absolutely mishandled since about 2007. You're talking about almost like 2 decades of like just, obviously there've been like some really highly important moments, like the 2017 Eastern Conference Final run. But I mean, like, I think most people recognize that was kind of almost like a one shot pony. Like, that was probably about as well as that organization and that roster could have played at the time. And it'd be like, to replicate that success and sustain that success probably was just, it was unreasonable to assume that was going to continue, right? So like everything that he's dealt with, all the off-ice drama, just the way the organization was run and operated under the Melnick years, not to talk about any of that history and then just briefly touch upon how, he's not Matthew, he has his own story to write. I think like they could have done more in that respect, but I mean, I'm also cognizant of the fact that they had like 45 minutes of runtime where it's like you're trying to jam all this in an episode, and you've probably got hundreds of hours of footage to do it. So it's like, it's easy to sit back and armchair quarterback it, but at the same time, I found it very entertaining. I just found it has like a broader NHL audience appeal than it does for like a Senators fan, if that makes sense.
And I think probably a lot of fans over the 2 seasons we've got of this now have felt that way about. And maybe not, but that their guy has been like, wow, you've missed so much here. But in a general sense, if you're not a Colorado fan or a Nashville fan last year when they were doing the Philip Forsberg thing, like it's got to be a little more surface level, and you grab what you can and carry on. So we should dive into the Sens here. And I am curious, you quite correctly referenced off the top that this was a very quiet offseason across the league. And it sort of played out the opposite of the way a lot of experts and insiders predicted, and it was there's suddenly a bunch of money in the system again. that should lead to some action. And what it actually led to was all these teams suddenly aren't feeling the pinch to, I better offload this guy, or I need to make room for such and such. It actually had the opposite effect. So
they were all loading up for Connor McDavid, right?
This is it, which is not
Topical.
apparently no longer going to be available to them. So I am curious, though, Senators specific, did you expect more? The moves seem to be the most notable ones is the trade for Jordan Spence and the signing of Lars Eller. And so those could prove to be really important pieces, but they don't really set the world on fire in terms of getting everybody excited. Did you think they needed to be more busy, or going into the offseason, was that sort of tinkering around the edges sort of what you envisioned anyway?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like twofold, right? I think first and foremost, I think they made their aggressive moves at the trade deadline where like they unexpectedly dealt Josh Norris to Buffalo for a second-round pick and Dylan Cousins. I think like that was their big move. And then, trading a second-round pick and some other parts for like Fabian Zetterlund was another move just to address some quality of depth.
Like that move a lot.
Bring in a goal scoring. So I think like they did their heavy lifting there where they kind of got ahead of the market potentially and made those moves at the time that they did. And then I went into the offseason saying, okay, like if this team is serious about taking a step and going about it the right way, they have to upgrade the quality of depth on the right side on their blue line. You can't go into the season with like Nick Matt being your seventh guy and there being no one in the farm system. Well, I shouldn't say no one, but like Carter Yakimchuk is obviously a rookie who's going to experience his first full season of professional hockey.
Can't just assume he's going to step in and be ready.
And and we've seen this under Steve Staios before. Like Tyler Clevin remained in Belleville for an entire NHL season, but for an entire AHL season. Mm-hmm. And he had opportunities to be called up. He probably deserved to be called up at various points 2 years ago. But they left him in Belleville, let him marinate, let him develop, play a full season, and kind of get his reps and touches down there. And I think they're probably going to wind up doing the same thing ultimately with Carter Yakimchuk, where it's like you don't want to necessarily rush that kid and hope he survives at the NHL level. I think like when you have a blue chip prospect who has the skill set and size that Yakimchuk does, you want him to thrive at the NHL level, and you don't need to rush that.
Right.
No one's development has been adversely affected by letting a kid sit in the AHL for a season, playing as much as he can, getting as many minutes as he can, playing.
I guess I'm sort of diverting you away from the original question here a little bit, but what has his camp been like? Because last year,
fine, like
but last year he had that one big flashy moment in overtime, right? That everyone remembers and everyone gets excited about, and it still made sense for him to go back to junior. I don't remember a big moment like that this year, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been more steady or he hasn't looked more ready or things like that. What has his camp been like?
I'd say he looks more comfortable. Even just talking to the player, like he looks more comfortable. Not that he's not the most like extroverted person to begin with. Like he's very closely guarded, and maybe that'll change with the age and maturity and everything else. But like he's just a different cat at this stage of his career. And I think like him having the preseason that he has, it's been, I would express it like he's been more comfortable, especially on the defensive side of the puck. It's just, you're not seeing the offensive flash necessarily that he exhibited in previous games last year. Like there hasn't been that wow moment yet, and that's totally fine. You're talking about a very small, limited
right?
sample
If you're
size.
Focusing on your defense and trying to show that you've come a long way there, then that's
right. And it's like, again, you're talking about like limited sample sizes, right? Like he has a big one-timer shot. He's got heavy shot, and there are those like skill in tight moments where like a guy with his abilities for a bigger defenseman, like it's in a way to me like he's not the same skater as Brent Burns is, but I think there's like the same level of skill as a defenseman, just in terms of what he brought at a very young age, when he was kind of like flirting between like forward and defense. And like with Yakimchuk, I see kind of like similar levels of skill. It's just, I think he's got to recognize when he can go and when he can't. And I feel like in the preseason, not that he's been like overly conservative, but I find he's focused on that defensive approach. He's worried. He's more conscious about when and where he can make those reads, right? When he should go and when he shouldn't. Because if you go all the time, it's going to cost you eventually.
100%.
He's trying to figure that out at the pro level right now, and I think that's the biggest thing. And his camp's been okay, but I think like going back to the question about like expecting what to do with Ottawa and everything else, I think like adding Jordan Spence was that moment where it's like, oh, okay, like we have to address the right side. Like Ottawa can't get into a situation where they're affording a really subpar defenseman to play like 600, 800 minutes a season and expect them to be good. Like giving that many minutes to Travis Hamonic often in top 4 opportunities because of injuries and everything else, like that can't happen this year. And it's not going to. So they addressed it through Jordan Spence. They've got Nick Matt-Pal who played games down the stretch last year, very important minutes in a third pairing role. And they've got a quality of depth. Now Yakimchuk is like the second man up probably. I'm assuming he'll start in Belleville. But now if Nick Jensen's healthy, then it's going to take an injury or two for Yakimchuk to get the opportunity to play regular minutes. And I think that's what they needed to do, and they've addressed that. But it's not a really sexy offseason per se in terms of player acquisitions. But I think like you add a puck mover like Jordan Spence. You get a Nick Jensen who's recovering from hip resurfacing, who should be healthy after his poor second half last year after injury.
How has he looked? Like, how much has he been skating around camp? Like, what's...
Yeah, so he played his first preseason game on Saturday night in Montreal, and he looked okay. It wasn't his best game, and it wasn't his worst game either. And I think, like, with him, it's just going to be... there's obviously going to be rust. There's going to be confidence. He's got to push his limitations, figure out what he can and can't do. And I think, like, speaking to him last week, it's like he knows what his limitations are, and he's worked through them, and he recognizes even the moments where, like, he might overextend or over-rotate his leg and tweak his hip for, like, that little stinger second.
Sure.
He's always bounced back. So he's got the confidence in his mind where it's like, regardless of what happens, I know I'm bouncing back. And it's no longer just like, it's that mental hurdle. It's like a pitcher recovering after he's had like Tommy John season or Tommy John surgery, sorry.
Yep.
It's like you have to build yourself up to a certain point and you'll be like, okay, this is 100%. And then how am I going to feel the next day? It's just one of those experiences that you have to push yourself through and come out the other side of. And I think Jensen's already there. Talked to Travis Green this morning at practice about load management, whether that's a consideration that they're going to have for Jensen in the early portions of the season. And they said, yeah, it's something we're going to keep track of, but he wouldn't elaborate more on it. But if he can play at a high level, if Jordan Spence plays well, if Nick Matt-Pal can take a step forward after he played, 25, 30 games for the team last year, I think they should be better on the defensive side of the puck. But they're banking on their big acquisitions at last year's deadline to kind of move the needle a little bit and push them forward.
Well, so before we move off the blue line, if, once we get into this a little bit and everybody's healthy, what do you think the ideal pairings are? I think last year we saw Zub kind of struggle a little bit, and maybe that's overstating it. I don't know if he was beat up or, how do you want to shake this loose? Who does Spence ideally fit with? Where do you put Nick Jensen back? Is it as simple as just keeping Zub with Sanderson and Jensen with Shabbat and giving Spence some time on the third pair, or how would you put it together?
I think there's just you work with familiarity, right? Like I think you touched upon, like Sandy and Zub have worked really well together, and I think like Zub's had injury histories, like whether it's concussions or anything else over the past several years. Like there have been like those like minor hiccups where he's had to like come out of the lineup and stuff, but when they've played together, they've been very highly effective. Like that's a good first pairing that can play against the opposition's best players. Sanderson's become such a two-way force that like even against the best players, he can start to like push the puck the other way. And the Senators can help get territorial zone time, sustain pressure in the offensive zone. And with the second pairing, I think if you play Shabbat with Jensen again, his regular partner from last year, if Jensen's healthy and he's playing at... It's probably unreasonable to assume that he's going to play at like the same level he exhibited there in the first 3 months of the season last year, where like him and Shabbat were like arguably a top 15 pair in the league by like the advanced analytics, just in terms of like zone time, sustained zone pressure, shots that the Senators were generating while they're on the ice. Like it's hard to replicate that if he's not back to fully healthy, but maybe he might not get there. But if he can play at a comparable level or like just below, your top two pairings are set and you don't have to worry about them. And then Jordan Spence is a puck mover. That's like his biggest skill set, right? It's just moving the puck. He's an undersized defender on the right side.
In theory, putting that with Clevin should...
Yeah. Who's like your prototypical third pairing left defenseman, big shot. But like I thought like Clevin had moments last year during the postseason. Maybe you'll back me up on this. But like I thought Clevin had moments in the postseason where he looked extremely comfortable.
He was the one who surprised me the most in that Leafs-Sens series with those moments where, oh wow, like he's got a little something here that I didn't know about. Or, like, there were other big moments from big players on the Sens, but I knew Sanderson was good, right? I knew Stutzle was good. Clevin was kind of this, like you said, a couple nice plays, even just chipping the puck out or making a move at the blue line to get something in deep. Or there was moments there where I think we talked about it on the show probably, that Tyler Clevin was the guy that I walked away from that series going, I think there might be a little more there than I thought there was.
Yeah, there was just like a confidence in puck retrieval, going in, absorbing a hit, or like not being afraid of pressure, like the forecheck pressure to be rushed into bad decisions. Like he would take another extra second, or like he would stutter a certain way to create himself like a second half of extra time to like move a puck more efficiently. And it's like that kind of confidence and that willingness to take that extra half second played such a huge difference. And, you know, like he, for whatever reason, he seemed more comfortable in the postseason than he did, you know, the first 20, 30 games of the season last year during the regular season. So if they can get him playing at that level, obviously he's recovering from an injury right now. He's not skating with the team, although he did skate this morning for like 45 minutes on his own with Drake Batherson. If they can get him back at that level, he should be able to buoy the third pairing with Spence, who's the efficient puck mover, who's undersized. So they got the pieces to do well. I think there's a quality of depth that has previously been lacking, and you know, even across the forward lines, like I feel like they could use a goal scorer, like a lot of high end skill. They like you 100% use more high end skill on one of the top two lines.
Sure,
but the quality of depth, where it's like you've got essentially 3 or 4 lines where it's like guys can slide up and down like without question.
Yeah.
You know, if a guy on the fourth line is like David Perron or Michael Amadio, like that guy could play on the third line 100% and do well. Like, you know, like they can score 15 goals and get you 30 points.
What is a reasonable expectation for you for Tim Stutzle? I referenced off the top this idea of internal growth, and sometimes fans will groan at that concept, and it means coming from a lot of management groups, it means you didn't do enough in the offseason, and we're going to now say we think we have enough inside. I think the days of huge leaps for a guy like Tim Stutzle are probably done. We've seen him round out better and become a more well-rounded player, even in that same playoff series. He figured it out fast. Like game 1, it seemed like he was running around a lot, and throughout the rest of the series, like, okay, here's what I can get away with and what I can't, and here's when to take myself out of position and when not to. What does he settle into this year? Or am I wrong? And there is still big steps for him to take.
No, I think there is room for internal growth. And I think I've had that conversation with him several times over the course of the offseason, whether it was on the Coming In Hot show or like during just the preseason discussions that we've had with him. It's like he recognizes that there is a balance between shooting the puck and passing. And I feel like in the past, there have been those like that tendency to overpass and overthink it because you have a Brady Tkachuk or a Claude Giroux on your line, guys that you want to set up on a goal. And I think he's
or even just being overly respectful, right? Like
for sure. And like there's been so many instances over the past year, two years, I'd say, like where he's just reverted to like pass first mentality. And I think he's recognized that there is a time and place to shoot the puck. And when you get those scoring opportunities and you're a 12% career shooter, like if you shoot the puck, there's a good chance it might go in. So like just numbers wise, analytically speaking, it's like, yo man, just shoot the puck, And I think through the preseason, we've seen that like he has like, maybe he doesn't have as good of a shot as Jason Spezza, but like there is that kind of 35 goal potential. I mean, we've already seen it in the league before because he's done it, but like there is that opportunity where like he could easily post 30 goals if he just shot the puck a little bit more selfishly. And I think like that's the internal growth that you get from,
and that's what I'm
like
referring to. I guess when I say big leaps, I mean in point totals and things like that. Is it more now being better defensively and better awareness and things like that?
I look at Timmy the same way I look at like Drake Batherson or like Brady Tkachuk. Like Brady Tkachuk, you know, is going to get you 30 to 35 goals, 65 to 70 points. Drake Batherson is going to get you 25 goals, 60 points, and you can, if health permitting, you know exactly what you're going to get from those players. With Timmy, my expectation is for him to be a point per game number 1 center.
Right.
And I think there is way more upside there. It's just like, you know, if he's playing all 82 games, I'd expect 82 plus points. That's just the nature of it. And I think with him specifically, if this team can like figure out their 5-on-5 scoring just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that is just guys have to just shoot the puck a little bit more selfishly. I think that at times last year, I think they were chasing quality a little bit more than they were, you know.
Sure. Which again has to be a balance, right?
You don't want to get into the offensive zone and have like a shot, like a 1 and out, where you just shoot the puck and then goes off the glass, goes back the other way, and the team transitions on you. Like, you know, you want to sustain zone pressure. You want to sustain offensive zone time. You want to create looks and shots off that. Because you tire them out, right? You tire the opposition out. You get a line change. Okay, then you get a fresh line out against a tired group on the ice, and you just cycle it that way. That it creates offense for your secondary lines, right?
Sure.
Just through that. So I think there is a time and place for it. But with Timmy, he's so skilled. If he can just find that perfect balance between passing and shooting, he's going to be an incredibly dangerous player. And I think once teams start respecting the shot a little bit more and stop cheating pass, the game's just going to open up right for him.
Talk to me a little about Claude Giroux, because there was a moment in the offseason where I don't think anybody was afraid he was leaving, but it did seem like the negotiation got a little contentious on, what his role was still going to be and what the value of that was. How do you see him fitting in this year? Is that still a guy you're comfortable with slotting in on your top line, or is there maybe going to have to be a few less minutes as he ages? Where are we at on Claude Giroux this year?
Yeah, so Claude Giroux, I would say it's weird. You talk about players having down years, and like everyone looks at him and sees like the production, the goal scoring, and everything else, and they're worried about like an age-related decline. And obviously, he's an older player in his later 30s, so that's naturally going to occur. But I mean, he still scored 16, 17 goals last year, had 50+ points. Again, I think he had like the lowest shot rate of his career last season. You talk about players playing more selfishly. I think like Claude has always been a pass first player, but like he talked to him, he recognizes it. Like he can still fire the puck. It's really no different than Tim Stutzle, who we just talked about. It's just like you get those opportunities, just fire the puck. And I think he recognizes that in many ways. Like he said, like, what do you have to do to shoot the puck more? He's like, coaches have been telling me that for years. So it's just like he's cognizant of it. He understands. But he was obviously on a different line at practice today, so I don't know if he's going to start the season. Like typically, he's been on the wing with Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stutzle the entire time. But like, he's on the second power play unit today at practice. He was skating with Ridley Gregg, and Shane Pinto was his center. So different looks for sure. I think the coaches are still experimenting on where guys can fit. But I think like the beautiful thing with Ottawa's lineup and depth is that you can have so many different permutations of the lineup. Like guys can slide up and down. Like Fabian Zetterlund right now is on the first line right wing, but he's a guy who could easily be on the second or third line depending on how the games go.
Yeah.
And I think like if a guy's not playing well and he's not going, there are different guys within that lineup who can step up and fill that role like more than competently.
So one of the things, and I'll apologize to the audience here a little bit because I've been harping on it a bit with Rob, with Wally when he was in here. I'm intrigued by the center depth of the Sens right now. I think Stutzle, quite obviously, is your clear-cut number one. Obviously, Lars Eller is a nice addition. That if that guy's playing fourth-line center for you, you're perfectly happy. You know he's going to do a nice job. I'm not sure what the reasonable expectation for Dylan Cousins is right now. And, Nichols, I'm not sure that Shane Pinto, by the end of the season, isn't the number 2 center, based on what you've seen out of
You've
camp.
Been hanging out with Brent Wallace too long.
I like Pinto a lot. I think there's a chance. Now, that opens up other challenges because if you're using him as your matchup center, now you've got Batherson on the wing. That's not ideal. So everything has its different challenges. What have you seen out of Dylan Cousins? His first full camp, it allows him to settle in more, get to know his teammates a little better, the expectations, the coaches, everything a little better. Do you expect him to lock himself in as a number 2 center, or are me and Wally onto something that by the end of the year that it'll be Pinto?
I think, so like Pinto's obviously your shutdown guy, right? Like he's going to play against the opposition's best, and he's hopefully going to win that battle more often than he loses. And I think that creates opportunity for a guy like Dylan Cousins to like fill those minutes against like, the third line essentially.
Sure.
Or the lower lines and like eat those minutes and hopefully generate more offense. And I think like with Cousins especially is that when you're with an organization that's flounders for as long as Buffalo has, I think it impacts you. And I think like having the extra familiarity from like the 20 games that he was here after the deadline, and same with, you can extend this to Zetterlund as well. It's like having that familiarity, going through a postseason experience, knowing the systems and the structure. Like this isn't a guy who was traded during the offseason who's meeting all his teammates for the first time.
Right.
Like there'll
be a comfort level now.
Yeah, there is. And he knows the city, he knows the staff. He's more comfortable than he would otherwise be. But I think like you're right. Like I think like for me going into this offseason, I think like Dylan Cousins was probably my pick as like the guy who, if the Ottawa Senators are going to take a marked step forward, they need Cousins to play at a significantly higher level. And I mean, like he's a former top 10 pick.
He's capable of it. He's had
got
big years before.
Yeah, he's got tons of tools. It's just, for me, it's a matter of like, how is this guy going to play at 5-on-5? Can the Senators generously outshoot the opposition when he's on the ice? And can they dominate territorially? Because if Brady's playing with Timmy, that line's typically going to dominate the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to spend a lot of time in the offensive zone. With Pinto, you're hoping he does that in a third line capacity, or at least it's like 50-50, where they're limiting chances. So it's like, if Cousins can get into that buffer zone where he's spending a lot of time in the offensive zone, like, he's got the skills and the talent to put up a big season. I don't think it's fair to hold him to like that 30+ goal, 60-point standard that he had in his big year in Buffalo, because that was a career shooting year for him.
Yep.
So like, the numbers are a little bit inflated, but if he can get you 25 goals and like 50 points, like, that's not a bad season per se.
No.
But I think the key for him is just to like drive territorially, be a center who can come down low, help transition the puck. Like, he skates very well. He moves it well. He can skate it from blue line to blue line, gain quality entries and everything else. Like, he adds different dynamics that I think make for a better fit than a Josh Norris did when Norris was here, who was more of a like, get the puck, dump it in, be the first forechecker in, and try and create turnovers himself. Like, Cousins isn't that guy. But I think he can support his wingers a little bit better than Josh Norris did, if that makes sense.
Sure. I want to touch on the goaltending here before we kind of zoom out and look at how this division is going to shake loose. But I'm curious, there's an argument to be made, and I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, but you could certainly make the case that last year when Ullmark went down, Merilainen saved their season, right? Stopped things from going into a skid. He did exactly what they needed him to do at that time. When Ullmark came back, he sort of held his form. But this is a guy who isn't used to playing a ton of games in Ullmark. And, just a zoomed out perspective from you on the goaltending and how you think an ideal split would be between these two guys.
Yeah, so Ullmark's never played more than 50 games in a regular season. So I think, like, obviously that is a point of concern based off like career history and everything else. So like, he's, even going back to last season, his first season in Ottawa, like, there were some minor injuries that he dealt with over the course of the year that, just didn't allow him to play consistently and then play at the level. I don't know, like, whenever he would come back from injury, there was like that little blip where he just wouldn't play well.
Yeah. It seemed to take him a game or two to get set again.
Or even longer, right?
Sure.
So okay. I think like that in a sense is concerning, especially when you're turning the net over to, or I shouldn't say turning the net over, but like you're bringing a young kid into the fray. And historically, like, obviously Steve Staios he's totally different than his predecessor, but there's been young goaltenders who've kind of been in the same spot as Merilainen in years past, where it's like Philip Gustafsson had a similar snapshot of games.
He have a brand new contract in Minnesota.
Topical. But he had success in a similar kind of small sample in Ottawa, and then they just decided, hey, we've already got Anton Forsberg, we're going to go out and get Cam Talbot because we don't want to entrust the net to a young kid. Mm-hmm. And that was the choice that they made, and obviously it was the wrong one because Gustafsson's thriving elsewhere, right? So I'm not saying Merilainen is Gustafsson. That's not necessarily fair, but I think like you talk to the goaltending coach and Justin Peters. He traveled overseas to Sweden to go work with Ullmark. It's like, well, did you go to Finland to deal with Levy? He's like, no, Levy, there was a chance he could come to Sweden and work out with us, but he didn't. But he's like, I didn't have to go to Finland because Levy's Levy. Like, we get it. Like, he works hard. Like, he's kind of focused and driven on his own. And Finland's just been such a goaltending factory. Like, they're doing a lot of good things over there. So
New Quebec,
and even like you talk to David Bell, like the head coach down in Belleville, it's like Levy gets sent down, and then David Bell and the Belleville Senators came up for that one regular season game in Ottawa last year, and I had a chance to talk to him before that game, and you talk about Levy and his headspace after being sent down, having the success that he did in that small sample of like, I think it was 9 games, 9 or 10 games in Ottawa. And he's like, Levy's Levy. I'm not worried about him at all. So like, he's dialed.
Just like, even keeled. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, his peers and coaches recognize that he's very dialed in. So like, I'm not worried about him. Like, you look at his play and performance last year. Like, I don't think there was a moment where I'm like, oh, okay, this is just smoke and mirrors. Like, the numbers are what they are, and it's just he's
getting lucky.
He's far excelling, or he's far exceeding the expectations based off some ridiculous saves or play or performance, and that's not the case. Like, he plays square. His angles are fantastic, and there's a little bit of athleticism to him as well, where it's like, if he has to make the second or third save, he has the athleticism to do it. But I think And Justin Peters has spoken on this several times now. It's like they almost had to coach the athleticism out of Levy because he would rely too much almost on it. When he was coming up, it's like, just be square. You're so talented. Just be square to the shooter and like
trust your positioning, trust your read.
Trust everything else, and then use it when you need to. And I think like that was the biggest thing with him. And now, you know, if he has to play 20, 35 games, I think that's a fair number for a young guy. And I think he's shown, especially last year, like he can step in and play regularly and not have it affect him. But yeah, over the long haul, like it's a totally new experience for him. But I have a lot of confidence in him just from watching him. Like, I don't think last year was a fluke. As good as the numbers were, maybe he won't match them, but I think like he's a guy who I have confidence in turning the net over to more so than some of the guys who've preceded him as a backup goaltender in Ottawa.
I'm curious, and like I said, I want to get to the division thing. I haven't yet. We'll do that in a second, but I'm interested in this because last year when the team came to camp, it's a new coach. There's some new guys in camp. It's a new starting goalie. And I don't know what the vibes would have been like then, but there's certainly understanding what's being expected of us now and the way we're going to play and feeling some things out. The team goes out, has a successful season, makes the playoffs, is competitive in those playoffs, and now it's time to establish ourselves as a consistent playoff team. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a one-off. I'm curious, as you're walking around training camp, is there a noticeable difference in the vibes between last year's camp and this year's camp, or does it feel like business as usual?
Yeah, I think there definitely is a huge change. And then, like you talked about Travis Green first season, this team has struggled to defend for like the year, several seasons previously. So it's like, you know, every coach comes in at camp preaching defense, teaching structure, teaching like discipline, and like we need to play good defense. And it's like, okay, that's easy to say, but like convincing these guys to actually go out and do it. You know, and I think this even dates back to like Jacques Martin. It's like Jacques taught these guys that you can't win in the NHL playing the way that you're trying to win. It's not going to happen. You're never going to have success doing it. So we're going to try and coach it out of you. And he started making some modest gains there in his half season when he took over for DJ.
Yeah.
And I think under like Travis Green, you're always nervous about, at least going into camp last year, it's like you're nervous about, okay, how's this team going to transition from Jacques Martin to a coach who Jacques didn't have that kind of rapport or work relationship with it. Like, you're successfully transitioning from this approach, and like, how is a new coach who's coming into this organization going to adopt what was done before him and kind of tweak it and build on it? And you're like, this, you know, and this is a group of players that hadn't shown that they could play that style. And to Travis's credit, like he got buy-in. He got the buy-in right away. And I think there's a maturity level this season where it's, you talk to the players, you're like, hey, what are your goals for this season? They're like, I just want to win.
Yeah.
I don't care about points. I don't care about any individual accomplishments. I just want to win. I don't care about any of the other stuff. I just want to win as a team. And it's like, I know it's like all like lip service and optimism and everything else that kind of like goes around the league at this time of year. Every training camp has it. Every locker room has it. But like, I think there's a maturity and a acknowledgement within the room of, even though they lost in the first round of Toronto, it's like you play those meaningful games, you see what it takes, the discipline and the structure and everything else that it takes to have success at the NHL level in the postseason. And I think it just has such a profound impact on how these guys have handled and conducted themselves through the formative days of this season. I think it's just, there's a growth and maturity there that you can't really appreciate enough. And obviously it's just, nothing's happened. No games have been played. The standings are all 0-0-0, but it's like before the puck has even been dropped, I think the players, there's a recognition of what they have to do.
I can tell you, man. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, keep going. Go ahead.
Well, just in that playoff series, right? Like, a lot of people are texting me going, uh-oh, are the Leafs going to do it again? Are they choking it away? I wasn't yet afraid of that, although that's always in my head. I was more nervous of game over game. You can see the Sens figuring it out, getting a little more comfortable, right? So it wasn't so much to me, are the Leafs going to crack, which is always a possibility, but it was, are they going to finish, are the Leafs going to finish them off in time, like before they fully, I don't want to say fully figured out. That's unfair to Ottawa. They had figured it out, but it took a couple of games, right? To, this is a little faster, and you can get away with a little more.
I think if you talk to any of the players after that Game 6 loss, like when David Perron scored, to a person, everyone on that bench believed that they were going to win that
Sure,
game.
yeah.
And I think it's genuine. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to believe it. But like, I think they all thought that game was like, we're going to take this to overtime. We're going to win this game. And then game 7 is going to be
anything can happen.
So,
Yeah.
So I think there is that kind of like confidence and swagger to them where it's like, they know what it takes. And it's a new season. Obviously every team's going to feel like that as well. But I think there's like a growth and maturity, not a chip on their shoulder, but like they're cognizant of what it takes now. Whereas like in years past, you could accuse these guys of not having the structure or discipline to like put a full 60 minutes on the ice. And I think there's like, they know what they have to do. It's just a matter of execution. So it's exciting to me because I think like this is probably one of the deepest groups just in terms of talent level throughout the 4 lines that there's been in like, I don't know, almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of going out and executing and staying healthy. And obviously you can't predict injuries or anything else in the NHL, but I feel like this group has a chance to crack the top 3 in the Atlantic. And like, I can't remember the last time I've been able to confidently say something like that. So it's been a long time coming.
Yeah. Well, time is not our friend here. We got to wrap this up soon, but I do quickly want to ask you, if we do take a look at the division, we saw Montreal take the big step forward last year. I would have told you at the end of that season that I thought that was a fluke and that they maybe weren't quite ready for prime time, but I do like the Noah Dobson signing for them. We'll see what that does. Ottawa obviously looking to establish themselves. And by the end of the year last year, they weren't life and death anymore. They had grabbed that first wild card and were solidly in it. Florida, Toronto, and Tampa in the top 3. I think my money would be on Tampa and then probably Toronto and maybe Florida in third. I think partly because Florida has already showed us enough times just get through the season and we don't care if we start on the road. But then when you have Tkachuk down half the year, Barkov maybe for the whole year, third maybe looks about right for them. Buffalo, Detroit, all wanting to take a step forward. They haven't shown it yet. Boston, I don't know. I think it's going to get mushy around that second wild card. How do you see the division shaking loose, and where does Ottawa fit into it?
Yeah, it's weird because like I think this is probably one of the most competitive divisions in hockey. But I think if you look at every team within it, there is like a question mark, right? Yep. Like Toronto, it's like great regular season team. Mm-hmm. Postseason, like they played a style they were trying to win every game 2-1, 3-2. But like losing Mitch Marner, and it's like I know everybody focuses on like the 100 points and his playmaking ability, but like that was a very capable two-way winger, and it's like how did you
affects every part of their game: the penalty kill, power play. They played him on the blue line from time to time in odd moments.
For sure, and like I don't want to talk about like I don't want to reference Moneyball, but like did they replace him in the aggregate with the moves that they make? Like I don't know.
It's a tough sell, man.
And like it's like he's played almost exclusively with Matthews since he's been there, so it's like you perhaps negatively impact Matthews' game as well. So it's like it's still a good team. Like don't get me wrong, but like the
there's a step back there. I don't think they're going off a cliff, but there's a step back there for sure.
Yeah, Tampa Bay. It's like is Vasilevsky healthy? Right. Is the blue line good enough to get 102 points? Like that's an aging
36,
team as well.
Hedman's getting up there. Yeah.
Exactly. And you mentioned the Florida injuries, like, to lose Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk off the hop, and then Lundell's dealing with an injury now too. Yeah. It's like, it's tough. Like, obviously they're a deep team. You don't win the cup if you're not a deep team, but are you able to overcome those injuries at the hop? And if they do start to drop a bunch of games, do they have enough in the tank to like overcome them in the second half of the season? I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. And then you got Montreal, which is like, I like Montreal's lineup in terms of regular season production, play, and everything else, but like analytically, like their numbers were terrible last year.
Yeah,
like their underlying metrics, and just in
there
terms
was a lot of numbers there that said they shouldn't have been there yet. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, like you can overcome that with like growth and development, right? Like all their young players getting
another year,
like a year of experience, and improving that way. Like maybe they have more in the tank. Maybe they're going to be a better analytical team this year. And adding Demidov, what does he do for the offense and the power play and everything else? So like there are reasons to, and you mentioned Noah Dobson as well, improving the blue line. So like there are reasons to like Montreal, but I see Toronto winning it. I think that's just I think there's enough there to continue to like their chances. I really like Anthony Stolarz as a goalie.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to say Toronto 1, Ottawa 2, Tampa 3, Montreal 4, and then Florida 5.
Oh, wow. That is a ballsy call on Florida that they're going to tumble that far.
But I mean, like, yeah, you say that far, but it's like Florida, as good as they were last year, finished with 98 points. Montreal had 91.
I guess.
So you're talking like 7 points of separation between third and fifth. So it's not a huge slide.
No.
I like obviously 3 and 5. That is a slide, but it's not. So that's my prediction. And then after 5, I've got Buffalo, Detroit, Boston.
Okay.
I don't like Detroit. I hate
getting
their
that,
defense. I hate their defense.
Well, because it now has Hamonic and Bernard Docker.
Well, they're talking about playing top 4 minutes. It's like,
yeah. Don't do it.
he really helped Jake Sanderson develop. It's like, did he, or was Jake Sanderson just that freaking good? So yeah, so that's the way I see it shaking out. But I mean, obviously everything can change with injuries and everything else. But
well, I appreciate the time, man. I know it's been a long day for you over at a training camp. We are at the time that this drops. The Sens will be on the ice tonight, opening night of the season. So. Appreciate you making the time. We can check out your work at the Hockey News and on the.
Hold on. We haven't finished up though. Where do you think Ottawa's going to finish up?
I have Ottawa right where they were last year.
4th, yeah, that's fair.
I think, like I said, I like Tampa. I think people forget how good Tampa was in the second half of last season. Now, like you said, if something's wrong there, that completely changes my. But if everybody's healthy, which they're clearly not, I would have Tampa 1. I like that top 6 a lot with Point and Kucherov and Hagel and Cirelli and Gensel, and like there's a lot going on there. I
also like the moves that they made at the deadline. Like I know like Bjorkstrand and stuff, but like he didn't play. But like I don't know, their blue line depth. Like
it was the guy they brought back from Seattle.
I feel like they're Victor Hedman, Yanni Gourde.
Yeah, Yanni Gourde. Yeah, that's.
I feel like if Hedman ever got hurt, and I know like if you said that about Ottawa Sanderson, be like,
sure.
yeah.
If anybody's number 1 D goes down,
thanks, genius. But like, I feel like they just like it drops markedly beyond Hedman on the blue line. So like,
I just think this division's going to be really close. I don't see anyone in it getting 115 points this year, 110 points this year. As everybody gets better, they're taking points off of each other. I think it's Tampa 1, Toronto 2, Florida 3, Ottawa 4, all probably within 6 or 5 or 6 points of each other, 8 points of each other.
I think there's going to be so much pressure on teams matching up with Tampa and Florida early. Like if Tampa's dealing with the Vasilevsky injury and like Florida's obviously dealing with what they have, it's like you have to bank those points now. So you have to grab those now because you can't bank on that later. Yeah, and I think like that's going to be key. And obviously Ottawa opens up in Florida.
That's right.
So yeah, they got Tampa and then Florida. So it's like if you can
get
win
after
those 2 games, give yourself a cushion. I think that's going to be the key this year is like create a cushion, get away from the pack. If you can get that early separation, then you're in great shape moving forward. So
100%, man. As I was saying, your work is at the Hockey News and coming in hot with our friend Wally and Yorkie. Appreciate doing this, man. As always, I think this is our 5th year where you've been doing the Sens preview show for us, so I appreciate it.
Time travels fast. It's crazy.
100%, man. It really does.
So
I think we
crazy.
Started it during the pandemic. Everyone was sitting at home just connecting with each other over Zoom, and I think we had a couple of beers that way. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah,
sounds
exactly.
about right. But Matt, thank you so much for having me on, and then thanks to everyone for listening, and can't wait to do it again.
We will link to Graeme's work in the show notes at tallcanaudio.com, and make sure you check that out. And if you missed it, on Wednesday, our friend Jeff Viette did the Leafs preview show. So go back and check that one out as well if you're interested in such things. Maybe it's just me. We'll see. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
I thought it generally sucked. I didn't think it was a specific suck. I thought it was like an all-encompassing type of suck. So, we're going to try and rectify that. But for right now, I'm going to be pretty pissed about it.